Hi, my name is Bibek Adhikari. I am your English instructor. In today's class, we are going to solve the reading portion of Unit 12, that is, I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud. So, let's begin. Let's start by reading the poem I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud by William Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze, continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. They stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth that so to me had brought. For oft when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure feels, and dances with the daffodils. So this is the reading of the poem I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud. How many stanzas are there altogether? We have 4 different stanzas. Stanza number 1, stanza number 2, number 3, and finally stanza number 4. How many lines are there in each stanza? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 lines in each stanzas. Here also we have 6 lines. Here also 6 lines. 6 lines. So now we have 4 different stanzas and there are 6 lines in each stanzas. Let's find out the rhyme pattern. Cloud rhymes with crowd. Hills rhymes with daffodils. Trees rhymes with breeze. Sign rhymes with line. Way rhymes with bay. Glance rhymes with dance. They rhymes with gay. Glee rhymes with company. Glee, company. Slightly it rhymes. It's not a full regular rhyme. Thought rhymes with brought. Lie rhymes with I. Mood rhymes with solitude. Fills rhymes with daffodil. So what is the rhyme pattern? Can you find out the rhyme pattern? The rhyme pattern is A, B, C, C. So this is the line pattern, right? So this is what we call a sestet, right? Sestet is a poem of 6 lines. A stanza or a poem of 6 lines, especially the last 6 lines of an Italian sonnet. But this is not an Italian sonnet, or is it? So this is the rhyme pattern. What is the rhyme pattern? This is the rhyme pattern. A, B, C, C. It is sestet because it contains 6 lines in each stanza. So what are the main lines in each stanza? I wandered lonely as a cloud. This seems to be like the thesis line or like, a profound, significant line. Or it could be they stretched in a never-ending line. A poet could not but be gay in such jocund company, right? Or for oft when on my couch I lie, they flash upon that inward eye. So this poem is about wandering lonely as a cloud. This poem is also about daffodils. This poem is about the celebration of nature and things like that. Let's study what this poem is actually about. Let's start by learning what a metaphor really is. A metaphor is a poetic device. That means this is mostly used in poetry that compares 2 distinct objects. 2 different objects are compared by a metaphor and given a similar meaning. In other words, it is an object or activity or an idea that acts as a symbol of something else. For example, I am drowning in poverty. That does not mean you are literally drowning. That means you are figuratively or metaphorically drowning in poverty. You are so poor, you have no money, you have nothing to eat, and slowly and gradually you are drowning in the great, vast ocean of poverty. Every day, I am drowning in the vast ocean of poverty. Now, that's a metaphor. Metaphor is a direct and strong comparison. And the basic mathematics of metaphor is X is Y. That is the basic mathematics of metaphor. If you are comparing Mr. A with a pig, you are comparing two distinct objects. Object number 1 is Mr. A and object number 2 is pig. What that means is you are comparing Mr. A with a pig. It could be because Mr. A snorts like a pig, or it could be because Mr. A sleeps like a pig, eats like a pig, dresses up like a pig. We are comparing two distinct objects, trying to find some similarity between them. So it is a direct and a strong comparison. Alright, let's start by learning what a simile really is. A simile is a figure of speech. What that means is it is a part of a figurative language. It is a phrase that uses the words like or as to describe someone or something by comparing it with someone or something else. What that means is you are comparing someone or something with someone or something else. That means you are comparing the mathematics. The basic mathematics of simile is you're comparing one object with another by using the words like or as. It is an indirect, therefore a weak comparison, while metaphor is a direct and strong comparison. For example, she is strong as a tiger. Now you are comparing a girl with a tiger, comparing a woman with a tiger. What that means is you are giving some animal qualities to that woman. She is as strong as a tiger. She is like a tiger. She is strong like a tiger, right? But if you write this sentence simply like she is a tiger, this becomes a metaphor because you are comparing two distinct objects. X equals Y. You are comparing two objects. Here you are comparing X as Y, right? This is a weak comparison. This is a strong comparison. In the second example, by using metaphor, you are giving all the qualities of a tiger to a human, right? You're giving every quality of a tiger. But in the first example, you're only giving the quality that is related to strength. So which one is better, metaphor or simile? Simile is a weak comparison while metaphor is very strong. Poets do not prefer, using simile. They do use simile, but they do not overuse it. Likewise, metaphor is direct and it manipulates the meaning. That's why overuse of metaphor is also wrong. Both have their positive aspects and both have their negative aspects. I wandered lonely as a cloud. Lonely as a cloud. You are comparing X as Y. So this is a simile. You are comparing X with Y, right? So these are clouds. These are daffodils. So what is the poet doing in the poem? He is wandering, wandering lonely as a cloud. He is as lonely as a cloud. So this is the condition of the poet. He is as lonely as a cloud. And that floats on high over vales and hills. And this cloud is floating over vales and hills. And the poet finds himself as lonely as the cloud. When all at once I saw a crowd. Now the poet sees the crowd, a host of golden daffodils. These are a host of golden daffodils. Beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. So these daffodils are beside the lake, beneath the trees, and they are fluttering and dancing in the breeze. The green denotes the breeze. Now in the second stanza, the poet says, continuous as the stars that shine. Now he is comparing these daffodils with the stars. And twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line. So these are like stars. Why are they like stars? Because they are continuous as the stars that shine and they twinkle on the Milky Way, along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance. Now at a glance the poet saw how many daffodils? 10,000 daffodils. So there were altogether 10,000 daffodils. Now it's a hyperbole. The poet is certainly exaggerating something. Tossing their heads in the sprightly dance. Now by tossing their head, they are dancing. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. The waves in the ocean also danced, but they outdid the waves. They outdid the wave because they were dancing more brightly. They were sparkling, they were like stars, and they were dancing better. In the third stanza, the poet says, a poet could not but be gay. Now, gay does not mean homosexual here. Gay means happy. This is Old English. In Old English, gay means happy. Nowadays, gay means homosexual, right? The poet is not trying to refer to homosexuality here. The poet is trying to say that a poet could not be but happy in such a situation. It is such a jocund company, it is such a happy company, such a jolly place, and the poet could not be anything else but happy. Now the poet is really happy. Initially the poet was sad because he was wandering lonely as a cloud over vales and hills. Now the poet is happy because a poet could not be but gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth that show to me had brought. Now the poet is gazing and gazing, he's just staring at the beauty, at the wonder of the nature, and he thinks, what wealth that show to me had brought. What vast wealth this is. Now the poet is wondering about the wealth, the natural beauty, about the natural abundance, about the natural wealth. The poet is really wondering about it, right? In the last stanza, the poet says, what does the poet say? For oft when on my couch I lie. Now the poet is back home and he is lying on his couch. In vacant or in pensive mood. Now the mood is either vacant or pensive. In deep thought, the poet is lying on his couch. They flash upon that inward eye. What do you mean by the word they? They means daffodils. Yes, of course. They mean daffodils. They flash upon that inward eye means the daffodils flash upon that inward eye, and which is the bliss of solitude. While being alone, the poet sees a host of golden daffodils flashing upon an inward eye, and that is the happiness, that is the true bliss of being alone, being in absolute solitude. And then my heart with pleasure feels. At last, the poet says in the last couplet, what does he say? And then my heart with pleasure feels. His heart is filled with pleasure and dances with the daffodils. Now the heart of the poet is also dancing. How is it dancing? It is dancing just like the daffodils. So what are some of the major themes? They are personification of nature. What does that mean? Well, it means that nature is given some human qualities, right? The daffodils are like stars. The daffodils are dancing. Now that is, the poet is trying to personify nature. Another aspect is the poet uses the language of metaphor and language of simile to compare and contrast between different ideas. The poet, in a way, worships nature because romanticism is all about worshipping the nature. What happens in romanticism is there's a trinity of God, man, and nature. By man, I mean all the human beings. Man does not mean not including women. Man means all the human beings. So what happens in a romanticism or in a romantic poetry is there's a triangular relationship, or there's a trinity between God, man, and nature. And man worships nature more than he worships God. God also loves nature because God initially created nature. So Romanticism is that movement which was initially started by poets like S.T. Coleridge and William Wordsworth to write poetry against the traditional convention of writing poetry. So they began writing about nature. Romanticism is more about romanticizing nature. It is about romanticizing nature. What the poet is trying to do is, the poet is trying to romanticize the romantic quality of natures. The poet is indeed worshipping the nature because nature is given some human qualities, right? The poet has an extreme sense of piety, extreme sense of duty, extreme sense of, worship towards the nature. And because of that, the poet believes that nature is more powerful than God. And this kind of thinking is called pantheism. So it is all about worshipping the nature. With this, we have come to the end of today's class. Now I'm going to give you some homework as usual. Your homework is to read the poem once again and write a paragraph about what the poet experienced in the poem. The poet did experience something in these 6 stanzas. I want you to write about that. So that's your homework. With this, we have come to end of today's class. If you have any questions or suggestions regarding this video series, feel free to write us at learning@deerwalk.edu.np. Thank you.